So it's 8 o'clock. And this morning we're, of course, being Wednesday, we're doing the self-care meditation. And I've got a poem that I did read this poem out on Saturday. No, it wasn't Saturday, it was Friday. And I really like it so much because it just really encapsulates what we're trying to do, particularly in this practice, in our own view of ourselves. So it's in two parts. It's by John Welwood, who I don't know, but I'm going to find a bit more out about him because I really like the poem. It's from a book called Healing the Wound of the Heart, Imperfect Relationships. So, yeah, I don't know what that's about, but it sounds, I'd like to see a bit more of his work. So anyway, I'll read it out. I'll read out the first verse, and then we'll talk about it, and then I'll read out the second verse. As a child of heaven and earth, you are a mix of infinite openness and finite limitation. This means that you are both wonderful and difficult at the same time. You are flawed. You are stuck in old patterns. You become carried away with yourself. Indeed, you are quite impossible in many ways. And I just love that because it does sum up the human condition. And we are like that, aren't we? And it's not our fault. It's not our fault. We are impossible in many ways. We get carried away with ourselves. We get stuck in old patterns. And this is what we're like, isn't it? It's what I'm like anyway. And I'm assuming that you're probably the same. I think most of us are. And it's not our fault. We get caught up in things because of our conditioning, because of where we've come from. As children, we learn about fear, we learn about being accepted, we learn about the fear of not being accepted, we learn about the fear of not being good enough. We're very sensitive as young children, and people say things to us, and we take them on board, and it's inevitable that it's impossible to grow up without this happening. So we grow up into these beings that are just doing our best in the world, and we're full of flaws. You know, we get angry, we get grief-stricken, we get upset, we feel that we're not good enough, we feel that other people are making life difficult for us, and yet it's all going on in our own being, the whole lot of it. Even what we think is other people's fault, it's still playing out in our psyche, in our minds. So, and that's just how we are. And actually what we're trying to do today in this practice is just accept that that's all right, because it's just true. It's how we are. We're conditioned by our past, and we're going to be affected by that. We're going to act out of that and do things that we wish we didn't do, and say things that we wish we didn't say, and react in ways that we wish we didn't react. So the first part of this poem is about just seeing that with kindness, just seeing it as a fact of life and that it's okay. But there's a second part to this poem which is just really fantastic, and this is also true. So the first verse ends, indeed you are quite impossible in many ways, and still you are beautiful beyond measure. For the core of what you are is fashioned out of love, that potent blend of openness, warmth, and clear, transparent presence. Boundless love always seems to sparkle through your limited form. So that's what we're aiming to uncover. That is there, this boundless love, this beauty beyond measure is already there. We just cover it up with all this stuff. So at the same time as accepting that we are impossible and difficult, we can see that there is a way to actually cultivate and to discover and to open up the beautiful in us, the love. And that's what we're trying to do today. But we won't open up that love, that beauty, unless we begin to accept that we are messy as well, that we are a bit impossible, that we are sometimes a bit difficult, that we do become carried away with ourselves. So if we start accepting that, and pretty much nothing else, if we just see it and acknowledge it, then the beauty and the love starts to emerge. And it's magical, but it is true. So on that note, let's do the practice. So we're doing this in 5 stages, which I'll lead us through again. And I would just say, just relax into this. You know, if thoughts arise and they're not very nice thoughts, or they're arguing against the meditation, then just let them be with kindness. We're always kindness, even when our thoughts are trying to reject kindness. We're still kind to those rejecting thoughts. So just setting up, just arriving in the meditation as much as we can. Just noticing that you're here right now, right this minute. And in this moment, this ever unfolding moment, this is our lives. This is who we are. We're not our memories. We're not our plans for the future. We're nothing to do with our worries and anxieties and fears. We are this. We are this moment, and this moment, and this moment. Constantly changing, constantly moving through our lives. So just relaxing as much as you can mentally and physically, letting your weight be held by the bed or the floor or the chair or the cushion. Just feeling the whole of your being alive, tingling, warm. Bringing your attention to the breath, coming and going. The shoulders and the chest rising as you breathe in, falling as you breathe out. And just noticing that as you breathe out, there is an opportunity to relax. As you breathe out and your chest drops and the shoulders drop, just letting go each time, sliding down the out breath, letting any tension, tightness drop away. And bringing your attention to the middle of the chest at the bottom of the rib cage, the heart center just behind the rib cage at the bottom somewhere. As you breathe in, particularly, what can you feel there? Can you feel anything? Or if you can't, just bring into mind somebody you love, maybe a person, a friend, even a relative, or a pet, maybe even a pet that you lost. And just seeing what happens in this area, this heart center. You might find a warmth, just a beautiful wholeness as you open up. This is the core of what we are, and this is fashioned out of love. If you can't feel anything, any warmth here in the heart center, just stay open to the possibility and don't worry about it. But this sense of warmth and benevolence and love in the heart center, in this very moment, is who we are. And it's always there, it's always available. It just gets covered up sometimes by the messiness of life and ourselves. But it's always there waiting for us, this loving kindness. It is the essence of our being. So in this first stage, we're just looking at the things that stop us actually connecting with this openness and beauty and loving kindness at the heart of ourselves. The sorrow, the anger, the dissatisfaction, the upset, the jealousy, the envy, the judgmental mind, all these things. And they're not our fault. As human beings, we're very tender, very concerned about our safety. So our minds try and keep us as safe as they can. But often this is misguided. We cut ourselves off from the world. We retreat to our castle and pull up the drawbridge. And this just makes things worse. So can we lower the drawbridge? Can we come out of our castle and open up our hearts and connect with the world, whatever it's like, with a sense of love and compassion for ourselves and for all beings? But this coming out of our castle is not easy, of course. So we need some help. Our castle, our separation from the world feels safer than coming out of the castle, to actually open up to the world, to love the world, to love everybody regardless of how unsafe it feels, is difficult. So we need a good friend. We need a really, really good friend to help us. And we have that good friend deep down in ourselves. We can be our own good friend, our own best friend. Can we do that? Can we be there when times are hard, when we're frightened or angry or depressed or sorrowful? Can we access that part of us that can hold our hand, be with us, support us, help us to get through? There is this good friend there in all of us. Can we find him or her? And can we let them be our friend? Can we be our own best friend? And can we notice that a lot of the difficulties we have, the tantrums, the tantrums in our minds at least, and often in our actual action in the world, the withdrawing, the feeling not good enough, they're like the behavior of a small child. Small child that feels that they're not quite up to it. And I think it's likely that we all have this small child within us, stamping its feet sometimes retreating into a corner and crying, sometimes just in floods of tears inside. And this small child inside us needs our help, needs our support and reassurance. So can we seek out this small child of ours and look after it, support it, help it to feel okay, Give it courage. Give him or her courage and support, friendship and reassurance. We can't just get rid of the small child. Why would we want to? It's so lovely. It's just frightened. So can we really look after our small child, our small inner child, who desperately needs our support? So keeping the small child by our side and continuing to hold his or her hand. Just staying with the small child, maybe snuggling quite close, really being a friend to him or her. And then bringing to mind our inner critic, this voice inside that's quite harsh at times, that never seems to be satisfied, that's always telling us that we could be better than we are, that's always going on about how we should have acted differently, how we're not good enough, how we let ourselves down. Somehow this voice seems to think that everything is our fault. So this voice may seem harsh, but this is a frightened being, another frightened being, desperately trying to make the world all right, desperately trying to keep our castle safe, desperately trying to make us better than everybody else, or at least as good as everybody else. And the ridiculous thing is that we all have this self-critic, all doing the same things, all trying to make each of us better than all these other people that this critic thinks are better than us. And in fact, we're all in the same boat. So our inner critic is just misguided, means well, it's really trying to help us, but in a completely misguided way. So can we soothe this inner critic? Can we get the inner critic perhaps to sit on the other side to the inner child and hold both the hands, help our inner critic feel more confident and less desperate to make things okay. And this is really important because our inner critic and our small child cover up the beauty and the openness and the loving kindness that is there inside of us all. Can we show them where it is? Can we show them this openness and loving kindness? Can we look after our inner critic just as much as we look after our small child? Can we reassure and support and love our frightened inner critic? And in the final stage, we bring the whole of ourselves back into our meditation. This complex, messy self that's not our fault, that's arisen through the experience of our lives from being tiny children right up to the present moment. And it's really important to see how we are, to see this messy self, this flawed being that's stuck in old patterns, this being that gets carried away with itself, and that is quite impossible and difficult in many ways. We can stop blaming this on other people and just see that we can be responsible for our own mental states, for our own actions in the world, regardless of what other people do. Can we see that the anger and the upset, the disappointment and the sorrow all take place within ourselves. And it's not wrong that we do that. It's not bad. It's not our fault. But if we just recognize and acknowledge what we do, we have an opportunity to change it and to act in different ways, to act out of love rather than out of any other emotion. And the key to this, I think, is being our own best friend, looking after our inner child, caring for it, helping it, understanding why it's frightened, and soothing our inner critic, letting our inner critic know that it's okay, things are changing, it will be okay, and all we have to do is just see the way we are with kindness and love and the beauty and loving kindness within ourselves that's already there will shine through. As a child of heaven and earth, you are a mix of infinite openness and finite limitation. This means that you are both wonderful and difficult at the same time. You are flawed, you are stuck in old patterns, you become carried away with yourself. Indeed, you are quite impossible in many ways. And still, you are beautiful beyond measure. For the core of what you are is fashioned out of love. That potent blend of openness, warmth, and clear, transparent presence. Boundless love always seems to sparkle through your limited form. Well, welcome to Susan, Noelle, Shobit and Rachel that joined us after we started. I hope that was helpful to you. Certainly helpful to me when I think about these things, just looking after ourselves. And like everybody else, I get into states, and I do really find it useful to look after this inner child, this critic, and to just take care of them. It helps so much. So that's it for today. I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you to Kate for doing yesterday. And just a reminder that we're building a new Buddhist Centre. Well, we're fitting out a new Buddhist Centre, which is going to open in the autumn, probably late September. And we really need help with this in terms of money. So if you can give us a donation, we would be so appreciative. It doesn't have to be much. It can be a £5 or £10, or if you're really well off, it can be, you know, £50 or £100. But give us what you can. If you're enjoying these meditations, we would be so grateful if you could just give us whatever you can manage to help to carrying on this kind of work, so that we can do more meditations and reach out to more people with meditation and teaching. Anyway, so I'll leave that with you, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we'll be doing the mindfulness of breathing. And in the meantime, take care and look after yourselves. Lots of love to you.